There's a phrase that echoes through the corridors of faith, whispered in moments of struggle, proclaimed in seasons of triumph. God only gives the hardest battles to his strongest soldiers. Perhaps you've heard it before. Perhaps you've clung to it in your darkest hour. Perhaps you've wondered if it's really true. Today, we're going to explore this profound truth together. Not as distant observers, but as warriors who have known the weight of battle. As believers who have questioned, struggled, and somehow found the strength to keep standing. Because that's what this phrase is really about. Not just strength, but the discovery of strength you never knew you had. Let's begin where all truth begins, with God himself. In the beginning, before time had a name, before stars learned to shine, there was God. And God, in his infinite wisdom, looked forward through the corridors of eternity. He saw you, not just the you that exists right now, but the you that would emerge through fire and testing, the you that would be refined like gold, the you that would shine with a strength that could only come from walking through valleys you thought would destroy you. God doesn't give us battles to break us. He allows battles to reveal what he's already placed inside us. Think about that for a moment. Really let it settle into your spirit. The strength you need for this moment isn't something you have to manufacture. It's not something you have to conjure up from within yourself through sheer willpower. It's already there, placed by the very hand of God, written into your spiritual DNA, woven into the fabric of who you were created to be. But here's the mystery. Here's the part that confounds us. That strength often remains dormant until it's needed. Like a seed buried in dark soil, it needs the pressure, the weight, the seeming impossibility of the situation to push it toward the surface, to force it to break through ground and reach for light. You are stronger than you know, but you'll never discover just how strong until you face something that requires every ounce of that strength. Let me take you back through scripture, because this isn't a new concept. This isn't modern motivational speaking dressed up in spiritual language. This is the consistent pattern we see throughout God's word. This is how God has always worked with his people. Consider Joseph, sold into slavery by his own brothers, betrayed, forgotten in prison for crimes he didn't commit, year after year passing by while he languished in darkness. Do you think Joseph felt strong in those moments? Do you think he understood why God would allow such suffering to touch his faithful servant? Yet it was precisely those years of hardship that shaped Joseph into the man who could save nations. The betrayal taught him about the depths of human nature. The slavery taught him humility and service. The false accusations taught him about injustice. The prison taught him patience and trust in God's timing. Every single battle was preparation for the moment he would stand before Pharaoh and interpret dreams that would save Egypt and his own family from starvation. God saw the prime minister in the slave boy, but the slave boy had to walk through the valley before he could ascend to the palace. Or consider David, a shepherd boy overlooked by his own father when the prophet came calling, too young, too inexperienced, too unlikely to be the chosen one. Yet God saw in David's heart what no human eye could detect. A warrior king in the making. A man after God's own heart. But the path from shepherd's field to throne was paved with battles. A giant named Goliath who mocked the armies of the living God. Years running from a jealous king who wanted him dead. Living in caves, hiding in enemy territory, watching his own son rebel against him. The Psalms are filled with David's cries from the depths of despair. How long, O Lord? Will you forget me forever? Yet each battle refined him. Each struggle stripped away what was false and polished what was eternal. The boy who killed a bear and a lion became the man who killed a giant. The fugitive who trusted God in the wilderness became the king who established a kingdom. The father who lost a son became the man who wrote, "Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me." David's hardest battles produced the songs that have comforted billions across thousands of years. His strength, forged in fire, became a light for all who would follow. And what about Job, a righteous man who lost everything, his wealth, his health, his children, sitting in ashes, scraping his boils with broken pottery, listening to his wife tell him to curse God and die, listening to his friends insist that he must have sinned terribly to deserve such suffering. Job didn't understand. He questioned. He argued with God. He demanded answers. And in his honesty, in his refusal to pretend everything was fine, he showed us something profound about strength. Real strength doesn't mean smiling through pain as if it doesn't hurt. Real strength means bringing your broken heart before God and trusting Him, even when nothing makes sense. Job's battle wasn't just about what he lost. It was about discovering what couldn't be taken from him: his faith, his integrity, his relationship with God. And in the end, Job declared, "Though he slay me, yet will I trust in him." That's the kind of strength that moves heaven. That's the kind of faith that God himself boasts about. Now let's talk about you, because this isn't just ancient history. This is your story too. Right now, in this very moment, you're in a battle that feels too hard, too overwhelming, too much for you to bear. You've looked at this mountain before you and wondered how on earth you're supposed to climb it. You've felt the weight of circumstances pressing down on you until you can barely breathe. And maybe, just maybe, you've wondered if God made a mistake. If he overestimated your strength, if he gave you a battle meant for someone else, someone stronger, someone better equipped. But God doesn't make mistakes. Let that truth sink deep into your soul. The creator of the universe, who spoke galaxies into existence, who knows the number of hairs on your head, who sees the sparrow fall, doesn't accidentally assign battles. He doesn't get confused about your capacity. He doesn't misjudge your strength. He knows exactly what you can handle because he's the one who placed that capacity within you. You see, God doesn't look at you and see your current limitations. He sees your full potential. He sees who you're becoming through this battle. He sees the person on the other side of this struggle, and that person is glorious. That person is mighty. That person is exactly who the world needs. But you have to walk through this to become that. There's a principle in metallurgy that's profound in its spiritual application. When metal is heated to extreme temperatures, when it's subjected to intense pressure and repeated striking, its molecular structure actually changes. The metal becomes stronger, not just surface level stronger, but fundamentally, at its very core, stronger. What was once soft becomes hard. What would bend now holds firm. What would break now stands strong. That's what God is doing in your life. He's not torturing you. He's not abandoning you. He's transforming you. At the molecular level of your spirit, you're being changed. Your faith is being hammered into something unbreakable. Your character is being refined into something pure. Your strength is being forged into something that will withstand anything the enemy throws at you. But you have to stay in the fire. This is where so many people miss the blessing. They feel the heat and they run. They face the pressure and they quit. They see the hammer coming down and they try to escape the anvil. And I understand that impulse. I really do. Because the process hurts. The refining is painful. The transformation requires you to let go of who you were to become who you're meant to be. But if you leave the fire too soon, the work remains incomplete. You get some of the strength, but not all of it. You gain some of the character, but miss the depths of it. You become somewhat refined, but not fully purified. God doesn't give you battles you can't win, but he does give you battles you can't win alone. That's the key. That's the secret hidden in plain sight. Your strength isn't meant to be self-sufficient. You're not supposed to fight these battles in your own power. The strongest soldiers in God's army are those who've learned to lean completely on their commander. Paul understood this. He wrote in 2 Corinthians, "I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong." This sounds like a contradiction until you've lived it. Until you've been brought so low that you had nowhere to look but up. Until you've been so depleted of your own strength that you had no choice but to rely on his. And then you discover something miraculous. His strength doesn't just fill the gaps in yours. His strength transforms your weakness into power that defies human explanation. People will look at you and wonder how you're still standing. They'll see what you've been through and marvel that you haven't broken. They'll witness your peace in the storm and ask where it comes from. And you'll know with absolute certainty that it's not you. It's Christ in you, the hope of glory. It's the strength of God made perfect in your weakness. Your hardest battle is actually your greatest opportunity. It's your opportunity to see God move in ways you've never seen before. It's your opportunity to experience his faithfulness at levels you've never reached. It's your opportunity to develop faith that doesn't just believe God can, but knows with certainty that God will. Because here's what happens in the hardest battles. The superficial falls away, the pretense crumbles, the masks we wear for others shatter, and we're left with raw, honest, desperate faith. We're left crying out to God, not because we're supposed to, but because we have nowhere else to turn. We're left clinging to His promises, not as nice ideas, but as our only lifeline. And God meets us there, in that place of complete dependence, in that moment of total surrender. He meets us and He shows us who He really is. Not the distant God we learned about in Sunday school, not the theoretical God we discussed in Bible studies, but the living, breathing, actively involved in your life God who sees you, knows you, loves you, and fights for you. The hardest battles strip away everything that isn't essential and leave you with the only thing that truly matters: your relationship with God. Think about the Israelites in the wilderness, 40 years wandering in circles because what should have been an 11-day journey became a multi-generational lesson. Why? Because God needed to teach them something that could only be learned in the desert. He needed to teach them that man doesn't live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God. He needed to show them that their clothes wouldn't wear out and their feet wouldn't swell because He was sustaining them supernaturally. He needed them to understand that following Him meant trusting Him even when the path didn't make sense. The wilderness wasn't punishment, it was preparation. Those 40 years produced a generation that could take the promised land, a generation that had seen God's provision in impossible circumstances, a generation that knew how to trust God's guidance even when it led them to face fortified cities and giant inhabitants. The hard battle of the wilderness created the strong soldiers who conquered Canaan. Your wilderness, your hard battle, is creating something in you too. It's producing perseverance. It's building character. It's deepening your faith. It's teaching you lessons that can't be learned in the easy seasons. It's revealing strengths you didn't know you possessed. And here's something beautiful. God isn't standing at a distance watching you struggle. He's right there in the fire with you, just like He was with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the furnace. The king looked in and said, "I see 4 men walking around in the fire, unbound and unharmed, and the 4th looks like a son of the gods." Jesus is in your fire with you. You're not alone. You've never been alone, and because He's with you, the fire that should destroy you is only burning off the ropes that bound you. The hardest battles reveal not just your strength, but God's faithfulness. Looking back over your life, can you see it? Can you trace the pattern? Every time you thought you couldn't make it, somehow you did. Every time you thought you couldn't survive, you not only survived, but came out stronger. Every time the situation seemed impossible, God made a way. He's been proving Himself faithful to you your entire life. Building a testimony, one delivered prayer at a time. Creating a history between you and Him that no one can take away. No one can convince you that God isn't real because you've seen Him move. No one can tell you God doesn't answer prayer because you've watched Him answer yours. Your hardest battles are becoming your strongest testimonies. And that's crucial because you're not just fighting for yourself. You're fighting for everyone who will hear your story. You're fighting for the person who's about to give up until they hear how you held on. You're fighting for the believer who's questioning God's goodness until they hear how He brought you through. You're fighting for the next generation that needs to see what real faith looks like in real circumstances. Your battle is bigger than you. Your strength is meant to inspire others to find theirs. Your victory is meant to prove that God is still in the business of doing the impossible. This is why God chose you for this battle. Not because you're perfect, but because you're faithful. Not because you never doubt, but because you keep believing despite your doubts. Not because you never get tired, but because you keep getting back up. You're one of His strongest soldiers, not because you never fall, but because you always rise. Think about what that means. A strong soldier isn't someone who never gets wounded. It's someone who keeps fighting even after they're wounded. It's someone who knows how to dress their wounds, recover their strength, and return to the battlefield. It's someone who's been knocked down so many times they've learned how to fall without breaking and how to get up faster. You've been knocked down before and you got back up. That alone proves you're stronger than you think. Every battle you've already won has been preparing you for this one. Every giant you've already slain has been training you for this giant. Every valley you've already walked through has been equipping you for this valley. Nothing has been wasted. God has been strategically developing your strength through every single experience of your life. The battles you thought would break you actually made you. The pain you thought would destroy you actually refined you. The losses you thought you couldn't survive actually taught you what really matters. And now you stand here, in the midst of your hardest battle yet, and you have a choice. You can focus on how hard it is, or you can focus on who's fighting with you. You can dwell on what you've lost, or you can remember what can never be taken from you. You can question why this is happening, or you can trust that God is working something beautiful that you can't see yet. The strongest soldiers are those who choose faith over fear, who choose trust over terror, who choose hope over despair. And that choice, you make it every single day. Sometimes you make it every single hour. In the darkest moments, you make it breath by breath. I will trust, I will believe, I will hold on, I will not let go. That's the battle cry of God's strongest soldiers. Not confidence in themselves, but confidence in Him. Not certainty about the outcome, but certainty about God's character. Not clarity about the path, but conviction about the destination. You know how this story ends. You've read the last chapter. You know that in Christ, you're more than a conqueror. You know that He who began a good work in you will be faithful to complete it. You know that all things, even this hard thing, work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to His purpose. So even in the middle of the battle, even when the outcome is unclear, even when victory seems impossible, you can lift your head and declare, I know my Redeemer lives. I know He fights for me. I know this battle doesn't end in defeat. God only gives the hardest battles to His strongest soldiers because He knows something about you that you're still discovering about yourself. He knows you won't quit. He knows you won't give up. He knows that underneath the fear and the doubt and the pain, there's a core of faith that cannot be shaken. There's a determination that cannot be broken. There's a love for Him that will endure any test. He knows that when everything else is stripped away, when all the props are removed, when you're down to just you and Him, you'll choose Him. Every time. Without fail, you'll choose Him. And that, my friend, is what makes you one of His strongest soldiers. Not your ability to avoid battles, but your refusal to quit in the middle of them. Not your power to control outcomes, but your willingness to trust God with them. Not your strength to stand alone, but your wisdom to lean on Him completely. As we come to a close, I want you to do something. I want you to take a moment and acknowledge your own strength, not in pride, but in honest recognition of what God has brought you through. You're still here, after everything, after all of it. You're still standing, still believing, still fighting, still trusting. That's not weakness, that's extraordinary strength. The kind of strength that comes from being broken and letting God put you back together. The kind of strength that comes from being emptied and letting God fill you with Himself. The kind of strength that the world can't give and can't take away. You are a warrior, you are a soldier in the army of the living God. And He has equipped you for this battle because He has plans for what comes after. There's a victory waiting on the other side of this struggle. There's a testimony waiting to be born from this trial. There's a version of you waiting to emerge that the world desperately needs to see. The hardest battle you're facing right now? It's not the end of your story. It's not even the climax. It's the middle. It's the challenging chapter that sets up the triumphant conclusion. It's the dark night that makes the sunrise so much more glorious. Hold on. Keep fighting. Keep believing. Keep trusting. Your commander sees you. He knows exactly where you are and what you're facing. He hasn't forgotten you. He hasn't abandoned you. He's right there beside you, and His presence makes you stronger than any enemy you face. You can do this, not because you're invincible, but because He is. Not because you're unlimited, but because He is. Not because you never fail, but because His grace is sufficient and His power is made perfect in your weakness. God only gives the hardest battles to His strongest soldiers. And friend, the fact that you're in this battle right now tells you everything you need to know about how God sees you. He sees a warrior. He sees a champion. He sees someone who will not just survive this battle, but will emerge from it victorious, transformed, and more powerful than ever before. He sees His strongest soldier, and He's fighting with you every step of the way. So lift your head, square your shoulders, take a deep breath, and walk forward into this battle with confidence. Not in yourself, but in the one who called you, who equipped you, who stands with you, and who has already secured your victory. This battle is hard, but you are strong, and together with God, you are unstoppable. The hardest battles produce the strongest soldiers. And one day, when this battle is behind you and victory is yours, you'll look back and see exactly why God trusted you with this fight. You'll see how it changed you, how it shaped you, how it prepared you for everything that comes next. And you'll understand with perfect clarity that God didn't give you this battle to destroy you. He allowed it to reveal the warrior He created you to be. Stand firm, fight on, trust deeply, and watch as God does what only He can do. He's turning your hardest battle into your greatest victory. He's transforming your deepest pain into your most powerful testimony. He's taking your weakness and revealing His strength. Because that's what God does with His strongest soldiers. He doesn't spare them from the hardest battles. He walks through the battles with them, transforms them through the battles, and brings them out victorious on the other side. You're going to make it. This isn't the end. It's the beginning of something powerful, something beautiful, something eternal. God's strongest soldier, your battle may be hard, but your God is faithful, and that makes all the difference. Keep fighting, keep believing, keep trusting. Your victory is coming, and it's going to be glorious.